What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Crypto Sharpest Show, where I read through the latest cryptocurrency news articles to keep you informed on what's going on in the space. And yeah, some of the articles are just like little history lessons, like how did Michael Saylor go from his tech company to being a Bitcoin champion? Let's just call him a champion because he has been acquiring so much in his company MicroStrategy, which is now Strategy, holding a majority of like 600,000 Bitcoin out there. So thought we share like the story, at least like how did this happen. So there's a nice article on that. We're talking about how Gen Alpha, that generation, will be investing in Bitcoin over gold because they grew up in the digital space. Like this is all they know. It's not like the traditional gold system, like when you grew up in that. So we're going to cover that article, a couple other like news articles surrounding Bitcoin, a little bit of altcoin news, but that's what we have covered for you. But first up, I think we want to give a nice little shout out to Bitcoin Ben. It's now official. I'm now the proud owner and chairman of the world's first Bitcoin-backed credit union headquartered in El Salvador. So, yes, we've been working on this very long, and now we can finally progress further with our private key capital. And yeah, so more information is going to be coming on that. We can finally do a little bit more stuff, and we can turn this credit union into the first fully backed Bitcoin financial institution. So this is going to be very exciting. And yeah, if you want more information, go to bitcoinben.io down in the corner over there. And yeah, or if you need more information, shoot us a text at 941-413-8080. But you do need to be a member of the crypto club to gain any of this information. So just giving you a heads up on that. But let's go through all these news articles I have for you. It's Friday. We made it through the work week. We had an awesome crypto meetup last night, around like 18 people here. We had Holly Chance talk about mortgages or in homes and just turning your home equity into opportunities. So it was a great meetup we had, and we're doing them every Thursday here at 6 o'clock at the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club in Sarasota, Florida. So let's go through the news now. What's happening? And let's talk about Michael Saylor. So Michael Saylor's Bitcoin obsession. How did it all start? Let's explore Michael Saylor's Bitcoin playbook, strategy, debt-fueled purchases, and the future outlook of corporate crypto investing. So let's find out. So Saylor's Bitcoin awakening. In August of 2020, Michael Saylor transformed from a technology executive into a symbol of corporate crypto adoption. Saylor, long known as the co-founder and head of the enterprise software firm Strategy, previously MicroStrategy, made his first bold move into cryptocurrency by allocating $250 million of the company's cash to purchase Bitcoin. Now, he cited a weakening dollar and long-term inflation risks as the underlying reason behind the strategic move. Incidentally, it marked the largest acquisition of a Bitcoin by a publicly traded company at the time and set a new precedent. Now, within months, Strategy expanded its holding $175 million more in September, and then $50 million in December, and then $650 million convertible note issuance, bringing his Bitcoin holdings to over $1 billion. Now, he recognized Bitcoin as capital preservation, comparing it to the Manhattan in cyberspace, a scarce and indestructible asset. Now, the move drew both praise and criticism. Skeptics called it relentless, while supporters saw it as a bold innovation at the time when a few dared to put Bitcoin on a company's balance sheet. Now, for Saylor, though, it wasn't a gamble. It was a calculated hedge against the monetary uncertainty and signaled that digital assets would reshape capital. And now here is his first tweet back in 2020 of September 17th. We just acquired 21,454 Bitcoin via 78,388 off-chain transactions, then secured it in cold storage with 18 on-chain transactions. Hashtag Bitcoin scales just fine as a store of value, he said. Now, Saylor's Bitcoin expansion. From the initial entry point, Saylor doubled and tripled down on his belief in Bitcoin. He applied structured finance tools to scale holdings and shape Strategy into a Bitcoin treasury company. Now, it all started during the July 2020 earnings call when Saylor announced his plan to explore alternative assets, such as Bitcoin and gold. Instead of holding cash, he put the plan into motion with quarterly Bitcoin buys that rapidly scaled holdings to tens of thousands of coins at a favorable cost basis. By early 2021, Saylor had borrowed over $2 billion to expand his Bitcoin position in an aggressive posture powered by conviction, not speculation. He articulated a vision of long-term ownership by saying that Strategy will hold its Bitcoin investment for at least 100 years. Now, despite Bitcoin's extreme volatility soaring to 64,000 from 11,000 in 2021, and then plunging to near 16,000 by the end of 2022, Saylor remained unwavered. In support of the claim that Bitcoin is the apex of monetary structure, his team used dollar cost averaging to take advantage of price dips to increase its holdings. Now, Saylor's strategy worked. His company's stock Saylor's strategy worked. His company's stock has surged during that time. Now, by outperforming Bitcoin itself, by late 2024, Strategy's stock had gained multiples of S&P 500 returns, and the business became viewed less as a software firm and more as a leveraged crypto proxy. Now, Saylor's Bitcoin financing. Saylor's obsession evolved from just a bold entry to dominating corporate demand for Bitcoin, shifting market dynamics through sheer scale. By early 2025, Strategy held over 2% of Bitcoin's total fixed supply, roughly 500,000 Bitcoin. Now, year to date, Strategy has acquired more than 150,000 Bitcoin at average prices of $94,000, putting its holding market value above $50 billion. Now, these massive allocations exert structural pressure on Bitcoin's finite supply, and corporations now compete for scarce coins. Saylor set the benchmark that the other firms began to follow. In the first 5 months of the 2025 alone, institutional and corporate Bitcoin purchases has surpassed $25 billion. Now, this scale has shifted Strategy's identity from a software revenue, which was dwarfed by Bitcoin's impact on valuation. Now, the equity raising strategy, issuing stock and debt to fund its purchases, was scrutinized as a recursion. If Bitcoin fell, debt could strain the company. If stock was diluted too much, investors' confidence could wane. Now, in June 2025, Strategy added 10,100 Bitcoin via a $1.05 billion purchase. Having spent nearly $42 billion on Bitcoin overall, the company's model was now replicable, but not without increasing systematic risk. Saylor's transformation from tech CEO to crypto treasury architect made him a polarizing figure and inspired imitators. His aggressive playbook reframed not just Strategy's valuation, but the broader institutional adoption narrative. Now, here's Saylor's strategy and how it's outpacing the Bitcoin supply, and this is since January. So Saylor has disclosed that prior to converting company assets into Bitcoin, he has used his own funds to buy at least 17,732 Bitcoin, which at the time was valued at almost $175 million. This came at enough commission push for Strategy's corporate allocation. But yeah, back to this chart though, it's like, yeah, he's acquiring more and more faster than the 450 new Bitcoin that gets printed a day. So he's kind of causing like his own Bitcoin having an event, because usually like we see nice little rise in Bitcoin's price and accumulation because the supply gets cut in half every 4 years, or 210,000 blocks on the Bitcoin blockchain. And so like during those times, like demand is always increasing, but the supply gets cut in half. So with simple economics math, supply versus demand, the price will go up. And like he's actually causing this alone just with his own purchases. So, and with more institutions and companies following suit, like it's kind of hard to think like what this next bear market would look like. Because if we still have cycles and everything, there will be another bear market. But what will it do to Bitcoin? It's like it just seems so rare that they're going to even sell any of their Bitcoin. It'll probably just be from the retail space, but institutions and governments are holding for the long term. So we'll see how that takes place. But these guys are literally causing a synthetic Bitcoin happening every time they purchase more Bitcoin. But what's next for Saylor and Bitcoin? Saylor has shown no signs of slowing down. Strategy continues to double down on Bitcoin, even financing new purchases through convertible debt and other creative instruments. Now, with halving cycles tightening supply and institutional interest accelerating, Saylor positions Bitcoin not just as a store of value, but as a corporate treasury standard. Looking ahead, the main questions are whether more businesses will follow Strategy's example, and how corporate adoption will influence by regulatory frameworks, and whether Bitcoin's function will be limited to balance sheets or extend to other areas of the financial system, if Saylor's theory is correct. Now, he might not only be known as a bold CEO, but as one of the key players who revolutionized business financing in relation to Bitcoin. Now, what can you learn from Saylor's Bitcoin obsession is that Saylor's journey is unique, but there are practical lessons anyone exploring Bitcoin can take from this approach. And as always, this is great information. Do your own research before committing. Before making an investment, Saylor studied the fundamentals of Bitcoin for months. For novices, this means avoiding hype and beginning with reputable sources like the white paper and competent analysis forms. Now, also think long term. Saylor has no intention of making a quick profit for individuals. This translates into only investing what you can hold through volatility rather than trying to time the market. And then also risk management matters. Strategy took a hazardous but audacious step by borrowing money to purchase Bitcoin, and retail investors ought to exercise greater caution, refrain from taking on excessive debt, and maintain cryptocurrency as a portion of a larger portfolio. Now, have conviction but stay flexible. Through the years, Saylor methodically planned his purchases, but he also doubled down on Bitcoin even during downturns. So for beginners, dollar cost averaging may become a useful strategy for you. Now, also, separate personal belief from company strategy. Not everyone has a corporation to back Bitcoin bets. Saylor blended personal holdings and strategies treasury for individuals, and it's better to clearly separate personal savings from speculative investments. Even if you don't have Saylor's fortune, you can still use some of his strategies to better navigate Bitcoin, such as doing your own research and being patient and disciplined. So yeah, so 4 great things to really consider. Well, that was 5 options right there. Again, do your own research, think long term, be aware of your risk management, have conviction and stay flexible. If we do have bear markets, price goes down, again, do your research. If price goes down, it won't matter to you because you know the fundamentals and analytics of it. And then just, again, separate your personal belief from the company strategy with it. So all great tips, but that is how Saylor got involved with Bitcoin and how it all started with his company, from MicroStrategy to strategy, now being one of the top holders and institutions holding Bitcoin. Now let's move on to our next article just on Bitcoin adoption, what the next generation could look like. Now, Gen Alpha will buy Bitcoin over gold. Gen Alpha will grow up with Bitcoin as a cultural and financial narrative, making it the default store of value over traditional gold investments. Now, gold has long been considered the ultimate store of value, shiny, scarce, and time-tested. But for Gen Alpha, however, the first generation truly born in a digital world that shine is already starting to fade. Instead, they'll grow up with a very different baseline for value, how it moves, where it lives, and in reality, Bitcoin won't just be an investment option, it will be a default for this generation. So again, let's talk about the born into this digital world. So unlike previous generations, Gen Alpha won't discover Bitcoin as something new or revolutionary. They'll inherit a world where Bitcoin has always existed, present in financial apps, discussed in classrooms, and embedded in digital platforms. To them, it won't feel risky or radical at all. It will just feel normal. So from day one, their experience of value will be digital first. Physical cash will be rare, as most payments will be cashless, and they'll learn about scarcity through gaming tokens and in-app economics. Now, not gold coins in a drawer. In that context, Bitcoin won't seem exotic. It will be part of everyday life. Now, on the contrary, gold will be perceived as exotic by Gen Alpha as a yellow stone with historic value. Now, Bitcoin is easier to access than gold ever was. Gold is hard. You need to buy it from a trusted dealer and then store it physically to have complete control. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a few taps away. With child-friendly fintech apps and educational tools already present, Gen Alpha could be exposed to Bitcoin before they even understand how savings accounts works. And access will be seamless through crypto-enabled games, loyalty rewards, or allowance apps, the barriers that once made Bitcoin feel technical, inaccessible, and rapidly disappearing. And then trust will be earned, not assumed. Where older generations gradually lost faith in institutions, Gen Alpha started from a place of deep skepticism. They're growing up in an era of economic uncertainty, institutional distrust, and algorithmic information for them. Trust won't be given to governments or banks by default. It will have to be earned through transparency. Now, Bitcoin by design fits that worldview. It's open source, it's auditable, it's decentralized, it doesn't ask for trust, it allows for verification. In a world where the mantra is don't trust, verify, Gen Alpha will naturally gravitate towards a system that don't require faith in intermediaries. And Bitcoin will be a culturally native. Bitcoin is no longer just an asset, it's part of pop culture. For Gen Alpha, that cultural familiarity will only deepen. They'll encounter Bitcoin through financial apps, influencers, creators, games, and even school programs. Just like social media was second nature to Gen Z, digital assets will be embedded in Gen Alpha's online identity. Now, that constant exposure through memes, brands, and mainstream platforms will make Bitcoin feel more culturally relevant than something like gold, which lacks the digital presence. Now, Bitcoin is programmable. Gold is physical, heavy, inert, it sits in vaults, and it's hard to move and harder to use. But Bitcoin is the opposite of that. It's programmable, it's borderless, it's divisible, and integrated into the broader world of decentralized finance. As Gen Alpha grows up, expecting digital systems to be flexible and responsive, Bitcoin's dynamics nature will be a feature, but just not a bonus. It simply fits the world they've built and live in. Now, this is also going to be a generation that won't need convincing. Every generation reshapes the financial system in its image. Millennials flirted with Bitcoin, Gen Z normalized it, and now Gen Alpha won't have to be convinced. They won't see Bitcoin as an alternative to the old system. They'll just see it as a part of the system, not because of ideology, but because of familiarity, usability, and cultural relevance. Now, gold had hit its moment. Bitcoin is just getting started, and Gen Alpha will grow up with it in their wallets, not just in a vault. So, yep. So I totally agree with this article because it just makes so much sense. It's like the world we live in. Like for me, I grew up in the social media phase. Like when I was like the internet just started coming around when I was in middle school. By high school, we started getting our these iPhones that came out. And so now we have touchscreen capabilities, social media in our hand. We don't need to be behind the desktop computer in our parents' living room. And so it's like I grew up in that generation, and then like the older generation, like I see them struggle. Like we're gonna call them the boomers, the boomer generation. They struggle with their phones still. I gotta get the screens bigger. It's like, what do I click on? How do I do this? A little bit of shortcuts. So it's like it just makes sense. The next generation is just going to grow up with it. They're not going to have the concerns, thinking it's risky. It's just something they lived in and always known. So that's why Bitcoin will outperform or will be bought more of. And again, it's not going to be by just investment. It's going to be because that's all they know. And for the boomers out there who still do need convincing, though, if you look at Bitcoin versus gold in the last 10 years, Bitcoin outshines by at least 48,927% compared to gold. So that was the average return there going on. So Bitcoin definitely does win there. But I did really enjoy this article, just seeing like the reasons why like Gen Alpha would get involved. And it just, again, makes really sense that Bitcoin is the future and there's no stopping this train. Before I go to my next article, let's say hello to the chat. As always, Stephen, welcome to the show. Love having you here. And Joe, my two best watchers on the show. But I love having you guys here so much, having conversations in the chat. It's awesome. I love it, guys. Now, what else do I have for you? What else is going on in the space? Looks like Bitcoin is made for us, says Africa's first treasury company, which eyes a unique opportunity with it. So Africa has its first Bitcoin treasury company, but its utility goes far deeper than publicly listed stocks tied to Bitcoin holdings on a balance sheet. Now, Bitcoin treasury companies are in vogue, and Africa has its first trading on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, while the launch of Africa Bitcoin Corporations and promises to attract billions of South Africa rand. So it's supposed to attract billions of South African rand, that's our local currency, from the capital markets. Its founders believe Bitcoin's impact on the continent remains in grassroots retail adoption. Now, South Africa's AltVest Capital grabbed headlines as it rebranded to Africa Bitcoin Corporation, or otherwise ABC. Now, this is the first publicly listed company actively building a Bitcoin-based treasury on the continent. Now, the company has a long-term goal to raise $210 million to buy Bitcoin using preferential share offerings and structured debt notes in the mold of the UK's Smarter Web company. Now, AltVest announced its pivot into Bitcoin in February, speaking exclusively on Cointelegraph's Chain Reaction, Live X broadcast, and ABC's chairman, Stafford Macy, and CEO Warren Wheatley unpacked the details behind the inception of the company. Now, here is Garrett Jenkins' tweet on in Africa, when financial services don't work, people die. We live that reality. So when we approach Bitcoin from a real human necessity and life-saving perspective. Now, Stafford Macy also outlined why Bitcoin is so powerful for countries grappling with this. And there's a little quick short video on it, but the listed financial service business historically focused on helping entrepreneurs and small businesses access capital through the JSE using listed instruments. Now, Wheatley said that they aim to tackle the dysfunction that exists in global capital markets, where smaller players don't have the same ability to attract investments or access capital markets. Now, how does Bitcoin fit into that picture? Well, Wheatley said that it's a natural evolution, describing Bitcoin as the ultimate alternative asset that would galvanize the company's balance sheet. Macy added that holding Bitcoin would allow ABC to continue investing and assist small enterprises in South Africa to raise capital and build their businesses. Now, this would entail offering Bitcoin-backed financial services, including credit, savings, and structured products. So in the context of all of these Bitcoin companies, we're not a pure play. We have an operating business that's got immense opportunities, and I think this Bitcoin play gives it more muscle relative to that, Macy said. Now, Bitcoin's value proposition solves African problems. Now, the underlying principle for adopting a Bitcoin treasury reserve is directly tied to the reality facing many developing countries, devaluing local currencies and inflation concerns. Now, Macy said that Bitcoin holders in Europe, America, and the Middle East largely view Bitcoin as an alternative investment asset. In contrast, Bitcoin is hugely valuable as a medium of exchange and store of value in developing countries. In Africa, when financial services don't work, people die. We live that reality. That's who we are. So when we approach Bitcoin from a real human necessity, life-saving perspective, said Macy. And debasement is very real for us. People die because of that. From a South African perspective, political uncertainty, fraud, and corruption are just challenges that businesses and individuals face daily. And as Macy explained, the rising cost of daily necessities like food, water, electricity are more a symptom of monetary dysfunction than political disorder. Now, the money is broken, not the society. Your groceries are not getting more expensive. The money is getting weaker, Macy said. And for ABC, the Bitcoin treasury play isn't just an opportunity from a pure financial instrumentation perspective, it's a human story. If we can get this right, we can solve so many problems that are very inherent to Bitcoin's value proposition, and that is why we say Bitcoin was made for us. Now, Macy added that while Bitcoin allows individuals to perceive monetary value far better than South Africa's struggling rand, the creation of the continent's first publicly listed Bitcoin treasury company presents a massive opportunity for capital markets to gain exposure to Bitcoin. They said that we want to serve the individual that is not a cypherpunk all the way through to the corporations and fixed income markets wanting exposure to the asset class but struggling to get exposure to it. ABC announced phase 1 of its Bitcoin strategic reserve, raising 11 million rand, or $633,000 so far. And the company's prospectus notes that it's the first phase and aims to raise $11 million in total of it. So they're just getting started. And again, Bitcoin's going to change lives out there, whether it's yours, the humans in South Africa. It's just like, again, Bitcoin is going to help us like in the long run. Because again, as this article said, society isn't the problem right now. And again, some of it is in some areas, but the currency is definitely where they're having problems. And again, it's their current currency's debasement, which is just losing value, I think, much faster than the US dollar is. And also still inflation. Like people just can't afford just everyday necessities, food, water, electricity, homes. So again, Bitcoin's going to give them the opportunity to kind of escape that. So hopefully they do pick it up even more. They reach their goal, and they do help just average everyday citizens and companies get involved with Bitcoin. And that's just going to help spread Bitcoin's adoption around the world even more. And this is taking place in Africa. So it's not happening just here in the United States. It's not just happening in Europe. We hear a bunch of news in Asia. This is happening globally. So like there is really nothing stopping this trend for Bitcoin as more and more businesses, people, institutions, governments, and just the world adopt Bitcoin. So guys, don't be left with no Bitcoin. If you do need help with Bitcoin, we got clubs all pretty much 5 in the States right now. And we're opening up at least tons more in the next 2 years. Expect like 30 extra ones within the 2027 year because we're expanding big right now. So that because our mission is to help everybody get involved in this space and also learn about it and how to navigate it safely. So that's our Bitcoin news, or I think I have let's have more articles on Bitcoin. Should we take a quick commercial break? Let's take a quick commercial break, and then we will be back with some more Bitcoin and altcoin news for you guys. So be right back.
Tired of jumping through hoops to buy Bitcoin? Frustrated with endless paperwork and invasive identity checks? Introducing Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club's loan program. No KYC required. Say goodbye to the hassle and hello to freedom. Borrow up to $250,000 at as little as 7% interest. Join our community and take control of your financial future. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where privacy meets opportunity. Connect with like-minded individuals and grow together. Visit us today and unlock your $250,000 Bitcoin loan. Your journey to financial freedom starts here.
Welcome back, everybody. Quick ad, and yep, I was just taking a little puff, having a sip of soda. And it's Friday, so yeah, let's get back with the news. What else is happening in the Bitcoin space? Looks like we got some more accumulation because the Bitcoin sharks aren't stopping. They've added 65,000 Bitcoin in just a week in a key demand rebound. So Bitcoin is a buy again for some investors and cohorts with sharks standing out after a week-long Bitcoin buying spree, says CryptoQuant reports. So let's go through this article, see who exactly bought it. So Bitcoin's conviction-driven holders have bought 65,000 Bitcoin in just 7 days as price bounces from 2-month lows. Now, new research from on-chain analytics platform CryptoQuant released Thursday show Bitcoin sharks are buying the dip. Now, Bitcoin's big players rethink its distribution. Bitcoin wallets with a balance between 100 Bitcoin and 1,000 Bitcoin have wasted no time bagging up more coins at lower prices. CryptoQuant data shows that in a single week, these sharks have added 65,000 Bitcoin of net market exposure. Now, Bitcoin's recent market action highlights a sharp divide between short-term traders and larger, conviction-driven buyers, and addresses holding over 100 Bitcoin to 1,000 Bitcoin are known as sharks and have added 65,000 Bitcoin in just 7 days, lifting their total to a record 3.65 million Bitcoin. Contributor XWIN Research Japan wrote of its quick take blog post. Now, this buying has emerged even as spot prices hover near $112,000, suggesting a growing disconnect between retail-driven volatility and deeper structured demand. And here's the Bitcoin buying or the value of the brand. Yeah, so this is Bitcoin's current price and its value. Now, XWIN referred to the knee-jerk reactions to Bitcoin's price volatility from the Bitcoin speculative trader base, or short-term holders, wallets holding for 6 months or less. Now, CryptoQuant shows that they spent outfit profit ratios of these investors only just beginning to flip positive on Friday, after nearly a month-long period in which the STH coin were moving on-chain at a loss. Now, predicting the next strong leg up for Bitcoin, XWIN observed declining exchange balances as proof of buyer demand at current prices. Now, net outflows, BTC withdrawn from exchanges, have dominated recently, signaling that investors are moving coins into cold storage rather than keeping them liquid for trading, it wrote. Now, while more Bitcoin price corrections remain possible in the future, the market structure thus appears strong. Now, beneath the surface, volatility, the groundwork for Bitcoin's next strong leg upward, appears to be forming, and XWIN concluded it. Now, this situation among some BTC investor cohorts is nonetheless precarious, as Cointelegraph reported that whales and long-term holders echoed the 2022 bear market with their selling habits through August. Now, CryptoQuant shows that LTH wallets balances have yet to recover, with the rolling 30-day balance change still being negative right now. So long-term big term hurdles, looks like they're in the green right now, but the short-term ones aren't so much as of right now. But Bitcoin whales, or sharks as these guys are putting it, are buying up the Bitcoin, and they're taking advantage of the cheap prices. So if Bitcoin ever dips, take advantage of it. Take one of MicroStrategy's or Michael Saylor strategy, dollar cost average into it. Because again, like, you can never time the market. The most important thing is time in the market. So if you're a long-term holder, dollar cost average will be very, very beneficial to you. Now let's move on to another news article. Speaking of Bitcoin Magazine, it looks like that issue number 1 is about to be auctioned off, and other items from Charlie Shrem. So let's hear what's going to be auctioned off and what's happening. So on the 10-year anniversary of his early release from federal prison, Charlie Shrem announced the auction of several items related to Silk Road in Bitcoin's early days. So, wonder what it's going to be auctioned for. Wonder what its value is. But Bitcoin's foundation co-founder and former BitInstant CEO Charlie Shrem is auctioning off items connected to his guilty plea over charges involving the darknet marketplace Silk Road. In a Thursday notice, a spokesperson for Shrem said that he would be he'd be opening up 12 items related to his time in prison and early Bitcoin paraphernalia on the Scarce City marketplace. Among the items were a journal from his time in prison from 2014 to 2015, a BTC ring, and the first issue of Bitcoin Magazine from May 2012. Now, these things aren't just mine. They are the scars and the sparks of the early Bitcoin days and its first fire, said Shrem. Now here is Bitcoin Magazine issue number 1 on May 2012 with full-page instant advertisement and signed. It looks like they even have a Satoshi Nakamoto holding up a sign, the corrupt fear us, the honest support us, and the heroic join us. So that was issue number 1. But Shrem was arrested in January 2014 for engaging in a scheme to sell over 1 million Bitcoins to Silk Road users. So really to break that part, all he did was create like an exchange or platform you can buy like Bitcoin on, and then whoever those individuals did use the Bitcoin they bought to go over to this other platform called Silk Road that was created by Ross Ulbricht. And that was like a dark web marketplace. Some people bought drugs, some people bought Hitman, some people just bought everyday goods or whatnot. I just really didn't. It was something else, but they got Shrem just basically saying, oh, because you sold the Bitcoin, a bad actor used it over here, we're going after you. So it was totally in the wrong because, again, he was an individual with a business versus if the bank does it, which happens all the time, like you have a bank account, a bad person or a normal person takes cash out of their bank account, they go to a drug dealer, buy some weed or whatnot. It's like why isn't the bank in trouble? So this was like a big turning point, just showing like the fighting of this Bitcoin's whole adoption in the very beginning and early days. Nobody liked it. Banks were trying to stop it. Anyone who got involved with it was like, okay, you're arrested. We don't like what you're doing. So it's like he really shouldn't have been in it at all. But that's just want to break down what really happened over Charlie Shrem in that situation. Because again, this was a short little. Shrem was arrested in January 14 for engaging in the scheme to sell Bitcoin to Silk Road users. It's like I just wanted to give you a fuller picture on what did happen back then. But U.S. authorities shut down the marketplace in October of 2013 following the arrest of its creator, Ross Ulbricht. Shrem pleaded guilty and then was sentenced to 2 years in prison, but was given early release in September of 2015. Now, Ulbricht, who was sentenced to life in prison for his role with the Silk Road, was pardoned by U.S. President Donald Trump in January. He also used scarcity to auction off items related to his arrest and imprisonment, fetching $1.8 million altogether. Now, Cointelegraph reached out to Shrem for comment, but had not received a response at the time of his publications. But issues related to Silk Road keep popping back up. Even years after the darknet marketplace was shut down, individuals continue to face criminal charges related to money laundering or fraud due to their connections to illicit funds. In July, UK authorities sentenced a former National Crime Agency officer to more than 5 years in prison for taking 50 Bitcoins seized from the co-founder of Silk Road 2.0 and the successor of the infamous marketplace. And then the U.S. government seized more than 50,000 Bitcoin connected to Silk Road in 2021 from James Zong, an individual convicted of wire fraud and hid some of the crypto on a single board computer that was submerged under blankets and popcorn tin. So, yeah, so people are popping up in the news about the Silk Road. It's like, man, it's been so long since that's happened, but they're still going after some of those people with it. But where does our article even go off to? But yeah, so outside the story behind the Silk Road, Charlie Shrem, and Ross Ulbricht, if you want a piece though of this some like Bitcoin history and like just memorabilia, so like Bitcoin Magazine number 1, his journal, I would definitely be intrigued to hear what that is. If you just want it, it's going to be auctioned off on what was the site they were going to be using again? On let's see, Scarcity Marketplace. So if you want to take part of that auction, I'm not sure when it's taking place. It'll be at the Scarcity Marketplace. But that's what's going on there for auctioning off some items. What else do we have in the news for you? Looks like Jack Dorsey's BitChat surges in Nepal and in Indonesia amid a protest crackdown. So is this a crackdown? Is this a tool used for protesters? What did Jack Dorsey make? I usually don't follow him too much. He is the former CEO of Twitter, but which now Elon Musk took over and rebranded it to X. But he's always been saying he's going to be making changes in the Bitcoin space, but I kind of lost faith in him just with his censorship during the Twitter days back then. Sure, he's done a lot of stuff in the Bitcoin space, good for the adoption and everything, but I don't know, I still have that lingering feeling on him. I'm not sure how everyone else still feels about Jack Dorsey, if you're going to use his products or not. But let's hear about this product he has on like a decentralized messaging app. Let's find out. So Nepal's social media ban has turned Jack Dorsey's new decentralized chat app into a protest tool. Now, authorities blocked 26 major platforms, including Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, and Instagram, tens of thousands of Nepalese downloaded BitChat, a messaging app that works without internet or accounts and was first developed by Jack Dorsey, co-founder and former CEO of Twitter, which is now X. Now, downloads jumped from just over 3,300 last Wednesday to 48,781. That's a lot of new downloads in just literally less than a week. Now, a surge of nearly 1,400% that made Nepal the app's largest user base worldwide, according to data from an open source developer who goes by Kali BTC. Now, the developer identified a sudden spike in BitChat downloads in Indonesia during the nationwide protests in the previous week. Today, we're seeing an even bigger spike from Nepal during youth protests over government corruption and social media ban. Last week, observers in the sudden spike in BitChat downloads from Indonesia during the protests. Today, we're seeing an even bigger spike from Nepal during youth protests over government corruption and social media bans out there. So, yeah, the downloads are correlating to what's happening over there in Nepal. Now, the ban intended to curb unrest. Instead, it drew more young Nepalese into the streets. At least 34 died in clashes, government building burns, with the Prime Minister KP Sharma Ali resigning on September 9th before that ban was lifted. Now, observers say that these centralized apps offered a measure of autonomy at a time when confidence in authorities have faltered. Now, decentralized and censorship-resistant messaging applications will see an explosion in adoption, said Christian Roos, account director at crypto-native agency Hype, he told Decrypt. Now, governments are becoming more authoritative as the current tools allow them to restrict access, content, communications, and even shut down the internet if they wanted to, he said. Now, Roos points out to a broader authoritarian system that didn't do anything for decades and that has pushed people to an era where government powers extend way too far into daily society. Now, applications like BitChat are helping young people change their society, demand better living conditions, more economic opportunities, and stop corruption on a large scale, he said, adding that decentralized apps like it could challenge the status quo and help people protest for better human conditions. Now, Nepal and Indonesia and beyond. In Indonesia, protests erupted in late August after lawmakers approved steep allowances for themselves. Tensions escalated when a 21-year-old rideshare driver, Afan Kunaran, was killed by police armored vehicle during demonstrations. Now, President Prabowo Subianto condemned the response as excessive, but anger had already spread nationwide. Days later, on September 8th, the country's finance minister was relieved from her office with only an hour's notice, per Reuters report. So concerns over digital repression during these protests, including surveillance, online harassment, and takedowns, were raised by Southeast Asia Freedom of Expression Network in a public statement. About 11,000 Indonesians turned to BitChat as the repression unfurled, per Call BTC's data. Now, Indonesia in lower mid-income range face difficulties and struggle in terms of economic condition. Now, Juan Iqbal, a former director of Indonesia's top crypto exchange, told Decrypt at the onset of the protests and asked about reasons behind the protests. Iqbal said that Indonesians had hoped the government can help in terms of initiative and policy that can support them, but because many recent policies are facing backlash from a larger audience, they felt no empathy at all. So lots of stuff going on in Indonesia and Nepal, just like political wise and in their own citizenship, like being censored by a voice. And so I guess actually this kind of is doing, like, Jack Dorsey is doing something, because again, he was first censoring us during a time at one point with Twitter and then moved away. So that kind of gave me bad hope. But now he has an app or a chatbot that is actually giving freedom back in some speech, because when the government can shut down the internet, Facebook, WhatsApp, just communications in general, then like this is actually a pretty good thing going on right now. And I really want to dive deeper into it more and look into like how this actually works. Does it run on blockchain? Because it said this app works without the internet, so I wonder how it does. I'll have to do some more research on that and let you know. But it looks like he is trying to remedy himself from the past right now, making changes. And yeah, he did say he wants to help Bitcoin's adoption and the world. And yeah, you got to do it. We got to see it to believe it. And he is actually doing something. So, okay, maybe he will change my mind, but we'll see. Now, what else is there going on in the space? Let's see. Last night at our crypto meetup, I know there's a lot of people who like XRP out there, so I guess I do gotta always pull up some more XRP articles just to stay informed of what's going on. Now, again, I have nothing wrong with the XRP token. It's just the Ripple team behind XRP I don't like. Just again, what happened, or just who they support and like everything. Like what was it, like last year? We saw who they gave money to and whatnot. It's like I just don't agree with that. I don't like that. So that's why I don't get involved with the XRP token at all. But that shouldn't stop you from getting in it if you want. There's nothing wrong with the XRP token and its chain. It is a centralized chain that you can't not deny that. Like even Ben was talking about that too on the show. It's like I got nothing wrong with XRP, the token at all, or it's just the Ripple guys. And then he was also going like, oh yeah, and it is a centralized token, guys. Like 23 validators, like that is not decentralized. So compared to like Bitcoin with thousands of different validators and nodes running out there, it's like in comparison, it is like a no. Like this is still a centralized network out there. But here's some XRP news for you on the Ripple versus SEC, and then how the lawsuit has strengthened XRP's narrative. So me still being a downer on it. Let's actually hear a little bit of what's going on in the space. So the SEC's lawsuit threatens XRP. And this was the first thing that happened. So in December 2020, XRP was under existential threat, but what almost killed it now appears to be its greatest strategic advantage. A U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission bombshell on December 22nd, 2020 caused XRP to crash 62%. It led to mass delistings and put the cryptocurrency in a legal gray area. Now, the lawsuit against XRP operators, Ripple Labs, alleged that it had conducted the sale of $1.3 billion worth of securities since 2013. At the time, it was the final days of the first Trump administration, and it caught the crypto industry off guard. But 5 years later, the litigations has finally been concluded on August 7th, 2025. Both parties dropped their appeals, and it put XRP in a landmark position. The coin now has something that many of its competitors crave: definitive legal clarity. So it is officially not a security when sold on public exchanges. This is a stunning reversal of the position for Ripple, as XRP has transformed from a regulatory nightmare into a digital asset with explicit validation in the US. Now, and also number two, the community mobilization behind XRP. Now, the XRP community is big, which definitely fuels this rally. Like they are huge. They definitely help keep it alive. But many cryptocurrency holders scoff at XRP. And even before the lawsuit, the term XRP army was thrown around and as a derogatory term. Critics often mock the token's passionate supporters in this way. However, the SEC litigation brought the community together and united this army. It became a rallying cry for one of crypto's most organized movements. Unlike many other cryptocurrencies, XRP is not completely decentralized. A community managed, it operated under the watch of Ripple Labs. It is meant to be an integral part of Ripple's modern blockchain cross-border payment infrastructure. So sitting on the right side of the law is crucial to the long-term success. And this is the line that Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse would use as a rallying cry. He said, "We are not only on the right side of the law, but we will be on the right side of history," he said in December 2020. Now, joining this legal mobilization was John Deaton, an attorney who emerged as a key figure who rallied over 75,000 XRP holders to support and submit affidavits and make testimonies in Ripple's case. Now, over the years, the XRP army lobbied, petitioned, and coordinated social media campaigns to keep the case in the public spotlight while simultaneously pressuring regulators. And yeah, there is no joke about that. In my 5 years of covering the daily news, there is not like one day I don't just see a rollover article talking about this SEC versus Ripple. What's going on? So the community has definitely kept it in the spotlight like no other. Like I had to stop covering the article. It's like, okay, I'm reading the same thing every single day. But no, these guys know they had to keep it there. Now, what other things are happening? Well, there are some key legal victories along the way with this. So it wasn't until September 2022 that Ripple managed to strike its first significant victory. The courts pushed the SEC to release emails from former director Williams Hinman. Internal contradictions in the SEC's approach to cryptocurrencies regulations struck a massive blow in their case. Now, there was a particular focus on Ether classification. The controversy centered around Hinman's description of Ethereum as a native token, not a security, as it was sufficiently decentralized. Now, documents in the Ripple lawsuit showed that the SEC officials disagreed with this stance, and there were voices of inconsistency. Now, if ETH isn't a security, then why would XRP be? Well, a month later, Judge Annalisa Torres dropped the most pivotal ruling to help create a crucial legal distinction. So, 1. Institutional sales. XRP sales to hedge funds and institutional buyers were classified as unregistered security offerings. But then there's programmatic skills. XRP sold on exchanges was not a security. Retail buyers had no expectation of profits from Ripple's efforts at all. So this is a nuance that gave Ripple a partial victory, but helped establish XRP as a cryptocurrency and not inherently a security. Now, Ripple continued to accumulate victories throughout 2023. In August 2024, Ripple's final penalty was set at $125 million, and that's 95% less than the SEC's original $2.2 billion lawsuit. Now, did you know that the XRP ledger has processed around 2 million transactions per day so far in 2025, and weekly payments now exceeded 8 million, of an increase of 800% since 2023? It's a fun little tidbit. Now, for XRP versus the SEC case has been closed. With appeals rumbling on from both sides, it wasn't until August 7th, 2025 that the case was finally closed. Both sides filed a joint dismissal from their ongoing appeals with the U.S. courts, and Ripple Chief Legal Officer Stuart Alderodi summed things up with a simple post on X, the end. And now back to business, guys. So the following commissional vote today, the SEC and Ripple formally filed directly with the Second Circuit to dismiss their appeals. And again, he just tweeted, "This is the end," and now back to business with a post, I think, linking to Telegram. Now, the final result puts Judge Torres' 2023 ruling in concrete and created a binding legal precedent. XRP is definitely not a security when sold on exchanges. It establishes this methodology for determining when crypto sales are deemed security offerings or when offered to institutional buyers. Now, a $125 million fine, which is manageable for a company like Ripple compared to its Treasury reserve. Now, the market reacted as XRP surged 4.5% on the announcement, reaching $3. It marked a massive growth on the coin's value since the dark days of 2020 when it dropped down to around 20 cents. Now, how has the lawsuit strengthened XRP's narrative? Well, the final verdict is that it has transformed XRP from a regulatory pariah to a cryptocurrency with official judicial validation. Now, even the top coins, Bitcoin and Ethereum, must rely on informal SEC guidance, although there are no official companies operating these coins. It would be challenging to file lawsuits against them either way. Now, for those who have supported XRP through the legal battle, it has created a fierce bond with a strong and organized user base, and that's more committed than ever. Coming out on the right side of history proves our conviction after battling years of market adversity. Now, the legal victory also offers institutional investors the clarity they require with the lawsuit hanging over XRP. It would have been hard for many institutions to invest in the coin, and since July 2023's ruling, XRP has experienced a remarkable surge, adding nearly $180 billion to its market capitalization. Now, here's the biggest win of all for XRP. It now has a unique position of regulatory clarity in one of the world's largest financial markets. Now, this is something that will be hard for others to easily replicate in their current decentralized format, and it could also be the sustainable moat that strengthens XRP through each passing regulatory challenge. Now, the government regime change and SEC leadership change faced by other cryptocurrencies, and with the US regulatory clarity, Ripple can now focus on global expansion without the weight of the SEC's litigation. This could lead to accelerated partnerships across Asia, Europe, and other emerging markets where regulatory frameworks are still evolving and remain in gray areas. Now, the removal of the legal distractions also give a boost to Ripple's introduction of its RLUSD stablecoin and growth of the XRP ledger's capabilities. Overall, this legal victory provides Ripple with incredible stability, affording it a unique strength to drive long-term technological development and ecosystem growth. So that's a little brief history of XRP and the SEC for those of you who didn't know about it. And again, there should be nothing stopping you from getting XRP if you want it. Just again, always do your research, understand the tokenomics behind it, who's the majority holder of these tokens, is it centralized, is it decentralized? How many validators are there? Who are those validators? Let's take a look at their history. Let's take a look at the market price analytics. Those are just the little things you want to do in research before you just dive on into it. So again, this should whatever I say, Ben say shouldn't stop you from getting a coin if you actually want it. We're just here to let you know what we feel and also what we know about it. So there you go, guys. Let's move on to our final article of the evening, which is on Thorchain co-founder's wallet has been drained of $1.35 million in a DPRK Telegram scam. So even co-founders can fall for a simple or a quick little scam that goes on. People just pretending to be a friend. You may be utilizing Zoom and then having that Zoom attack, which I always forget how it actually works, but I think that's what took place here. So let's go over this article and learn a little bit more of how the Thorchain co-founder's wallet got drained. So attackers lured Thorchain co-founder JP via a friend's hacked Telegram account, impersonating them on a deepfake Zoom to siphon keys from encrypted iCloud keychain and drain a forgotten MetaMask of $1.35 million. So Thorchain co-founder JP lost $1.35 million from a personal wallet on September 9th after falling victim to a Telegram phishing scam linked to North Korea. It's always coming from North Korea. The attack combined a hacked Telegram account, a deepfake Zoom call, and what he believes was a zero-day exploit. Now, his loss joins the list of recent high-profile losses in the crypto space. Last month, billionaire heiress Taylor Thompson lost over $80 million in crypto after investments tied to a psychic. Similarly, earlier this month, a crypto investor lost $3.05 million after signing a malicious transaction. So guys, we gotta be due diligent, not lazy. Pay attention to what we're doing in the space so we don't fall victim to any of these attacks. Now, 1.2 million Thorchain wallet drained in Telegram deepfake scam, investigators confirmed. So blockchain investigator ZachXBT confirmed that the incident, stating that JP's wallet was drained after he joined a fake meeting link shared through Telegram, PeckShield alert, and had earlier reported the breach, reporting that approximately 1.2 million had been stolen from a Thorchain user wallet. Now here's some images from TruthSocial showcasing the on-chain activity of when that 1.2 million was taken. Now, the wallet likely belongs to JP Thor, who had a private wallet compromised due to a fake meeting scam a few days ago. And JP is one of those people who's greatly benefited financially from laundering of the DPRK attacks and exploits. So it's a bit poetic that he got wrecked here by a DPKR. Okay, so it is kind of a yin-yang, not yin-yang, it's a karma situation. Like, if you do it, it's probably going to happen to you, so. But unraveling the stolen funds. JP explained in a post on X that the funds were tied to an old MetaMask account that he forgot about. The wallet contained staked assets that did not appear on Etherscan, making it easy to overlook. He tweeted out that, yes, an old MetaMask of mine, which I had completely forgotten about, was drained, and they had access to my encrypted entire iCloud plus keychain. Ironically, only the private keys radioactive were vulnerable. VoltSig wallets were untouched, despite also using the iCloud, and they are safe. Now, here is the, I think, Telegram post of what actually happened. I really have people ask me about the tools I use in them. So, friend hack Telegram, deepfake, video on Zoom. So, JP, Thorchain co-founder and VoltSig co-founder, had a personal wallet drained, ironically, JP, of his own products. But JP also explained that the scam began when a friend's Telegram account was hacked and the attacker invited him to a Zoom call, where a deepfake video was used to increase credibility. JP clicked the link during the call but saw no suspicious prompts or requests for credentials. He believes the attackers may have accessed his encrypted iCloud keychain or separate Chrome profile on his Mac where MetaMask keys were stored, and then there was no request for admin passwords or installations, JP wrote. It has to be an active or recently patched 0-day thing going on. And he said, okay, so this attack finally manifested itself. Had an old MetaMask cleaned out, which I forgot about. It was staking some assets which don't appear on Etherscan unless you use portfolio tracking sites. And in summary, the friend's hacked Telegram account plus a deepfake video on Zoom just showcases all. And yep, so they were on Telegram. There's a Zoom link. Oh, I joined already. Joining. Hey, we can't still hear you. It seems Zoom technical issues. Let me create a new invitation link. Yeah, let's try it again. Can you send me Gmeet link? Zoom doesn't work well. And there's the Google Meet. So I think that kind of got him right there. But in a bid to recover the stolen funds, on-chain data flagged by Lookchain showed a new message sent to the exploiter's wallet. The message recorded on Etherscan offered a bounty if the stolen Thor tokens were returned within 72 hours, promising no legal action if the hacker complied, and provided contact details for the Thor swap team. Notably, ZachXBT noted that ThorChain and its co-founders had previously profited from the laundering of funds tied to DPRK exploits, including hacks exchanges like Bybit. Now, it's a bit poetic that he got wrecked here by the DPRK, said ZachXBT, and highlighting the lessons learned from the experience. JP emphasized that private keys grow riskier the longer they're stored, urging users not to back them up on iCloud, Google Drive, or similar services. He also recommended using two-factor authentication on a separate device, such as a burner phone, to reduce exposure. He also added that the threshold signature wallet like VoltSig, which split keys shares across multiple devices, represents the next stage of crypto security. Attacks are going to only get worse, said JP, and it can be solved. We just need to upgrade our wallets. Now, Telegram scams have surged to 2.2 billion lost in 2025 as malware attacks take over phishing. And yep, we just got to be due diligent to just stay safe from these attackers. Just know what you're clicking, know who the article's from. So if you're getting messaging from people, just to verify that it's actually them. Look at that URL, look at that email name. Don't click any of the links. Like if you got an email saying to go to a link, actually call that person up and go, hey, just send me this link right here. Like verify that they're actually there. But phishing attacks and human error is the biggest issue when it comes to crypto scams out there. So just be safe out there. Don't just click links randomly. Know what you're doing. But that is it for all the news I have for you guys. Bitcoin's price is currently at 115,000. We were at 16,000, I believe, earlier today, which was very nice. I think the alt-season market's about to shine. Solana is, where are we at? $238 right now. It's having a little breakout going. So I think we're finally in that phase of alt-season coming because, again, for a long time, we've seen a lot of Bitcoin news, which is the Bitcoin accumulation. Next phase goes into Ethereum. We've been seeing Ethereum treasuries pop up too. Then it's moving into large cap coins, which we're seeing Solana kind of take place right now. And then it will be the altcoins. So this could be your last moments to get in before the bull run is. Never chase a wave. Just accumulate now when there's a dip happening. Our fear and greed index is showing 50, so people are at a complete neutral right now in the space. But that's it for the news, guys. I hope everyone has an awesome Friday. I'll see you again on Monday with some more crypto news articles for you. So everyone have a great weekend. Take care, peace, and I love you. Bye.
In a world where your data is constantly under attack, one company stands for your digital freedom. Introducing Calyx Solutions, your gateway to ultimate online privacy and secure cryptocurrency trading. Meet the Liberty Laptop. With its modified OS and advanced tracking prevention, it's your shield against surveillance. Access restricted areas, use recommended security software, and browse with confidence. Your digital footprint? Virtually non-existent. For the crypto pros, we present the Crypto Laptop. Pre-configured on premium hardware for secure trading. Optimized for your favorite wallets and exchanges, it's the fortress your digital assets deserve. Both laptops come with expert individual training and support. You're never alone in your journey to digital empowerment. At Calyx Solutions, we put you in control. No more worrying about data breaches or compromised transactions. Ready to join the revolution? Visit calyxsolutions.io and choose your perfect laptop today. Plus, become an affiliate and earn while sharing the power of digital freedom. Calyx Solutions. Unlock your digital freedom. Give us a call or text at 702-845-8276 or visit us directly at calyxsolutions.io.